Hey, I'm Young-McLaughlin. Welcome back to Leading from the Middle. I am so excited because I'm taking the opportunity this year to connect with 23 different leaders to learn a little bit more about what they think companies can do to transform their middle managers into their company's most valuable asset. And I do this by asking one question. But first, I want to take a minute to introduce you to my guest this week. This is Katy Blommer. She is the CEO and founder of Women's Best Life University, and she's also vice president at American Express. Welcome, Katy.
Thank you so much, Helen. I'm so excited to be here, and thanks for thinking of me for this.
Absolutely. So, Katy, you're doing many things, right? You're an entrepreneur, and you're also working in the corporate space. And I believe you are overseeing about 25 people right now. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I have a team of 25 at American Express, and then I have a very small team for my own business as well, just a couple of people, but yes.
Right. So it sounds to me like you've got a little bit or a lot of experience in terms of working with teams and navigating, helping people to develop and navigating those tricky situations when there's change or somebody needs to be given feedback, all the things that help us develop into the leaders that we are today. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Especially within the corporate world. I mean, I've been in the corporate world 22 years at this point, and I've been a leader of teams for, probably 18 of those years. So absolutely.
Did you always want to get into the space where you're leading others, leading teams?
Absolutely. Yes. That has always been my passion from very early on in the corporate world. And it's actually what drove me to start my own business, which is focused on mentorship, leadership, and coaching, because that is it's my true passion much more than the subject matter that I'm working on in the corporate world. Especially mentoring and coaching women. I love mentoring and coaching all humans, but especially women is a big passion of mine.
Okay. So, Katy, as you know, there's one question that I'm asking everybody that I'm connecting with, and that is, if you can select one, what is one thing that companies need to pay more attention to when it comes to developing their managers? And I am personally interested in this because this is a space that I work in, and I want to hear from other people. So I'd love to know, what is that one thing that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I'm so glad you're asking the question and that you're passionate about helping support companies in this way and helping them train their manager level folks. It was very hard to narrow it down. I think there are a number of things that companies need to focus more on, but the one that bubbled to the top of my list when I really pushed myself to come up with just one is customized leadership. I think right from the beginning at that sort of first level leadership role within a company, the company needs to provide some sort of training, support, coaching, mentoring in teaching new leaders and existing leaders as well, not just new leaders, but I think it needs to start right from the beginning, what customized leadership is and why it's so important. And let me tell you a little bit about what I think it is and why I think it's so important. Yeah. I think as humans, what we tend to do is project ourselves onto others. And so typically when you start off in the beginning of your leadership journey, you assume that your team operates in the same way that you do, thinks in the same way that you do, feels motivated in the same way that you do, and likes to be rewarded in the same way that you do. It's almost like the love languages in your relationship. If you've ever heard of like the love languages, we tend to lead in the way we want to be led. And the reality is everyone is so unique and so different in the way that they want to receive leadership or that what motivates them. Very similar to the love languages in a relationship, right? We tend to project our own love language when our partner most likely has a different way they'd like to receive love. And I think this is so critical to understand what each member of your team has as motivators at work. And there's actually a really cool tool to do this. It's called the Motivators Assessment. And there's a book and it's like one of those personality kind of quizzes you can do.
Okay.
It's slipping my mind who writes it, but if you just Google the motivators assessment, and I've used it for years with my teams, had each of my team members take it, and there are a list of 23 different motivators that motivate people at work. And so, for example, some people are motivated by money, right? But what's interesting is that's not the highest percentage. The folks who are actually driven by the number that their salary is a lower percentage than you would guess, even though some people are, and that's perfectly normal and fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great. It's actually the lower percentage of what people are motivated by. Some people are motivated by fun. So you think of like I always make the joke about the morale committee in The Office, the show The Office. How it always sort of made fun of like all the things they were doing to increase morale. But some people are actually very motivated by that kind of thing and need you to provide those options. What's interesting about me personally is I'm not motivated by those things. I would rather just have the time to get my job done and then go home and spend more time with my family versus doing the fun things at work in the office and then having to work later to get my job done. But I know as a leader, even though that's not my cup of tea, I have to provide those opportunities for the folks who need those things to be motivated. Another really important thing here is recognition. Some people, it's their nightmare to be recognized in a big group setting. It's their nightmare.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so if they did something wonderful and you don't know this about them and you recognize them in a massive group setting, that's not going to motivate them to do something wonderful again because they hated the way that you recognize them. And so that's another really important thing, is to understand how the individual members of your team need and want recognition. So those are, I know that was sort of a lot of talking, but those are just some of the ideas.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, what I love about this, Katy, is thinking about your team members in that unique way. And also what I hear is understanding the diversity of your approach and style. Yours as a leader, because I heard you say that, right? This is not how I am. However, I understand how my team members want to engage and interact. That's right. I think that is something that not everywhere, but in many places is lacking, is starting off with the approach of let's help you gain some self-awareness around you're an individual contributor now. Now you're going to be a manager. Let's talk a little bit about what this looks like. Do you believe that that's happening inside companies?
I have never seen a deliberate program set up to teach that. Never in 22 years in the corporate world. I do think there are some leaders who are better at teaching that to their new leaders than others in pockets here and there. So I'm not saying I've never seen it at all.
Right.
I think it's a gap. I mean, I think we should have more formal programs set up to teach exactly this, and then provide those leaders with the tools such as the motivators assessment or something like that. I think Strength Finders is a great one. Even Myers-Briggs can help you understand, your folks and how they're motivated and sort of what they want, how they operate. But I do see formal programs where those types of tools are rolled out. I've seen those, but I've not seen something that's formally meant to teach a new leader about customized leadership and how to implement it and how to sort of work through the natural human urges to project yourself onto others.
It's really true. And so, Katy, I have a program called the Leverage Academy where about 10 managers come into this program for 6 months. And it could be emerging leaders or it could be current managers. And the first thing we do, month 1, is they take the DISC assessment, and inside those results, it's a little eye-opening, right? So it goes back to what you were talking about, which is what the pace that maybe I'm a fast-paced person, maybe somebody else is a slower-paced person. Right. To understand when we're communicating, because by the way, it all comes down to communication. When we're communicating, we need to understand, how does the other person like to receive information?
Yes.
And so one of the questions I've been asking people as we kind of go through the DISC assessment and get some self-awareness and insights is, have you ever asked or been asked, what is the best way to communicate with you?
I love that.
Has anybody ever asked you in the workspace?
Not that directly in that way. I mean, I certainly have had new leader relationships where the leader has said, here's my communication style. Does this sort of work for you? You know, that kind of a thing. But I don't recall ever being asked in exactly that way.
Okay.
Just sort of very straightforward and directly. And I love that. I think it's great.
Just something to think about. It
Yeah.
seems too simple. Like,
Yeah.
wait, where's the catch in that?
Yeah.
And even when we've been working with somebody for a good amount of time and maybe now we're suddenly on the same team,
Yeah.
I love to think of the redesign and starting off with, hey, I know we've known each other for a while, but I'd really love to understand what's the best way to communicate with you.
I love that.
And then we reflect, well, here's what works well for me. It goes back to the self-awareness. I
Yeah.
love what you said around, the uniqueness basically. We
Yeah.
need, if we have a better understanding of what motivates other people and how they like to be communicated with, productivity can go up,
Yeah.
frustration can get lower. We have results through relationships. And
That's right.
that's something that I think is really powerful.
Yeah.
Um, so I hear you, customized leadership.
Yeah.
How do you get that started? So let's say, first of all, when you started to become a manager, was there something like that? Was there an opportunity for you to really get to understand the core skills that you would need to have in place or strengthen?
Um, I would say no, no. When I was very first a leader, I was in my early 20s.
Hmm.
And no, there was no sort of formal process that taught that. And I started out in the classic sort of projecting myself onto others. I struggled really quite a bit with delegation and letting go of control when I moved from individual contributor to leader, letting go of I know how to do things the best, and I've got to control this and
I'll
do it.
do it all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
allowing
it'll
somebody else
save
to
me
do it.
time.
Yeah, in their own way. And I think for me, that was the first inkling of, oh, everybody's different. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but when you're in your early 20s and you're given a team to lead, you don't you learn this on the job in most cases, right? And
Right.
that's when I started to realize, oh, other people can do things in different ways that end up with an even better result than I would have done it my own way that I thought
Mhm.
was the best. And that for me is what started to morph into this idea of customized leadership. It started to sort of lead me down that path. And it wasn't until I would say 5 or 6 years later that I came across the motivators assessment,
Okay.
that actual specific tool that really helped me use that. And I have a spreadsheet for my team members that shows each of their like top 3 motivators. And when I go into a one-on-one with them, I will do a quick review and remind myself because we don't have to memorize it for that
Right.
many people, right? We can use tools and remind ourselves. And I'll do a little refresher so I'm sort of speaking their language when I hop on their one-on-one with them. If that
Well,
makes
that's
sense.
helping you get super intentional too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
learn, like, if I get intentional before I go in here, it's going to help me guide the conversation and stay more connected to their, motivators or
Right.
the things that are going to help them want to do the job in a different way, a better way, look at it from a
That's right.
different perspective.
Exactly right. And anytime you're working towards somebody's motivator, they're going to be more motivated. Like that's just so sort of simply how it relates to not only increased productivity for your team, but enhanced employee satisfaction as well. Like they're just
Yeah.
going to feel more motivated. Like it's that simple. It really is, which is kind of wild.
Well, and the hard part is in this busy environment with a lot of change, there's
Yeah.
also been a lot of impact, to many companies with layoffs and things like that. We don't take a step back to think about those basic or simplistic things. And one of the things that I hope is that companies will, somebody will take a nugget of wisdom from today or one of the other conversations that I'm having and say, oh, let's get curious about this. What
Mhm.
is a way that we're developing our managers currently? And if we
Yeah.
did do something a little bit better, what might that be? Is there a
Yeah.
question that pops in your head that companies could ask themselves as they're thinking about ways to develop their managers?
Well, yes, it relates to this customized leadership. I mean, the sort of simple and direct question to your point earlier about communication style is, do we have a program to teach new leaders about customized leadership? Do we have the tools to give them to help them understand what are the motivators of each of their team members? I think just those very simple questions.
Yeah,
I would actually be surprised if most companies said they could answer yes to both of those.
I
I would,
agree.
in
I
my
agree.
experience. Yeah,
And the truth is, if the answer is no, then it becomes, so what would that look like
yes,
and how could it benefit us? And here's one thing I know for sure, because this is the space I'm in and I absolutely love what I do, is you will retain people, which we know turnover costs, right?
yep,
The turnover cost could be double somebody's salary, especially if it's a manager. You
yep.
will retain people, and not only that, you'll develop them into one of your future leaders
That's right. Absolutely right.
because people crave development. Do you believe that
Yeah,
to be true?
absolutely. 100%.
I know I do. It's a core value
Yeah,
of mine, like
yeah.
learning, love of learning. I'm a little bit over the top of that. All right, so Katy, we are going to wrap this up in a bow because we could keep talking and probably pinpoint
Yes,
many other things. But
yes.
I love this. So customized leadership, which could incorporate, some different levels of support, whether it's training,
Yeah,
coaching, um, mentoring, or a
yep.
combination of all of them, because
That's right.
really they all go hand in hand.
Absolutely right. I totally
Anything
agree.
you
And
would
then
want to add?
tools, any kind of tool that would help them to identify what
Mhm.
their team's motivators are. But yes,
And people love tools,
fully
and you
aligned.
don't need a hundred tools. You need a
That's
few
right.
tools that
Exactly.
you feel that can guide you and give you the kind of insights that would allow you to strengthen whatever skill that you need to build. And we all
That's
need
right.
to develop our skills in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, absolutely agree.
Fabulous. Katy, where can people find you if they want to learn a little bit more about the things that you work on?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love people to visit my website at womensbestlifeuniversity.com to learn about our signature course, which is the Working Mom Happiness Method. We're bringing that into companies to help support working mom employees by creating balance, maintaining healthy habits, and developing their careers. It's life changing. And then for individual working moms, I have the Working Mom Happiness Method podcast, which can be found on all the major podcasting platforms. So would
And
love to
Katy
see you
is
there.
so fabulous at what she does.
Oh,
I
thank you.
definitely say go connect with her. Go check out the offerings, and companies are going to really see the value from this program that you're offering. So keep up the amazing work that you're doing. And then I just want to say thank you, Katy, not only to you, but all of the other people that have said yes to this, because I am doing a give back. It's another core value of mine. And I will be, my company will be donating money to the Hospice of Chesapeake,
Wow.
which is a local organization, which is near and dear to my heart, as well as I do believe that it helps when we can give back. And I know that the people at, many hospice organizations are giving back to families on a regular basis. So thank you to all of them. And I hope you will stay tuned in next week for another conversation from with me and Leading from the Middle. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to another interview of Leading from the Middle. I'm really looking forward to hearing some feedback from you. I want to connect with you. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn at Helen Young-McLaughlin. Just hit that hyphen in between Young and McLaughlin, or you can go to my website at helenyoungcoaching.com. Thanks again and have a great day.